It's Mr. Dexter here. In this short video, I'm going to be talking about transport in plants. So plants may have two main things they transport. In the first place, they need to get water up to the leaves for photosynthesis, and the water comes from the roots. Now it travels through a tissue called xylem, which is one directional. So it's just going from the roots up into the leaves. And it uses two processes. Now, if you look at diagrams in your textbook or you watch videos online, it can be quite complicated. So I'm going to try and show you just very quickly and simply how this works. So capillarity is when water sticks to the insides of very narrow tubes. Now, paper towel is made of cellulose, which is the same materials that lines the inside of xylem cells. So you can observe capillarity happening with I just have some food coloring in a little tray here, and I have some paper towel. And what you can see, hopefully in the camera there, is that this water is climbing by itself. I'm not doing anything. It's just migrating by itself up the paper towel, and it did that quite quickly. So this is the process of capillarity. The water just sticks to the inside of narrow tubes, portrayed here by the paper towel, and it works its way up to it can go up to about a meter tall. So any plant that's shorter than a meter can rely on this process of capillarity. The water will just climb up the inside of the stem by itself without any energy cost involved. Now for taller plants, so bushes and shrubs and trees, they need to use another method as well, and that's what we call transpiration cohesion. And the easiest way to demonstrate that is with a tube. Now xylem, I don't know if you can see this, right? It's a hollow, empty tube. This is just a paper towel roll. But it represents xylem because xylem cells are dead. They're hollow, they're empty. So they're no longer alive at all. Now water has something called hydrogen bonding. And hydrogen bonds cause water molecules to stick together. So I have here a strip of water molecules, and you can notice how they're all stuck together. So if this one is bonded to the next one and so on. So in xylem, if the water is in the xylem and it's moving up the inside of this tube, get it up there. So we have water coming up in the leaves, and we have water being pulled in at the roots. So this is representing kind of the xylem in the stem. So as water comes up into the leaves and it's exposed to the sunlight, the pores of the leaves are going to open the stomata for a gas exchange to get the needed carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. But when that happens, water is also going to evaporate. So these water molecules from the leaves are evaporating and being lost into the atmosphere. But every time one evaporates out, you can, because of the process of cohesion, they're attached to each other. So as one leaves, the next one gets pulled in at the roots, and so the plant doesn't run out of water because it keeps pulling out new water out of the roots in the soil. So that's kind of how transpiration cohesion works. The transpiration is the evaporating part, and the cohesion is the fact that these water molecules stick together. Similarly, sugar transport can also be represented very simply. Sugars are transported from photosynthesis in the leaves to everywhere else in the plant. So they're needed in the fruit, they're needed for the flowers, for pollination and fertilization, they're needed for the stems and buds and shoots to grow, and they're especially also needed in the roots because roots are not photosynthetic. They can't get their own energy, and so they rely on the leaves sending sugar molecules in the form of sucrose down to the roots for energy and for growth and division of the root cells. So I'm going to use this to represent the phloem now. Now phloem are cells that are alive. They're not dead, they're not hollow, they're not empty. They're alive, they're full of cytoplasm, and they work with something called the pressure flow hypothesis. And essentially the way that works is like this. We have our phloem cell, and then we have sugars. Now sugars I'm going to represent with paper, because paper is cellulose, which is made from sugar. And so as sugar is being produced in the leaves, it gets put into the phloem. And this is done by active transport. It takes energy, right? So it's taking the energy to take the sugar and put it into the phloem. And as we keep doing this, the pressure in the phloem is building up. And that pressure is causing it to flow through the phloem. So it's called the pressure flow hypothesis. And as you can see, if I keep adding more sugar in the top where the leaves are, you can see it migrating to where the low pressure areas are, the sinks. So the leaf would be like the source of the sugar, and the roots and the fruit and the stems would be the sinks for the sugar, where the sugar ends up traveling. So the more sugars are made by photosynthesis in the leaves, the more sugar gets transported to the parts of the plant where it needs to go. Well, I hope that was helpful.